Matt Cardona debuted on Ring of Honor TV to attack Chris Jericho during his Learning Tree segment. It will be Jericho versus Cardona for the ROH World Championship at Final Battle pay-per-view in Hammerstein Ballroom. Tony Khan is Vince McMahon.
The best guys, Tony Khan.
He absolutely is the biggest hypocrite. One of the biggest hypocrites ever in the pro wrestling business, for sure. And, Tony Khan comes out here. So follow this logic, right? This is really sad, actually. And shout out Cardona. It's no hate on him. He's just doing his work, It's not, but this is really tough. So if you guys are unaware, basically GCW is running a Hammerstein Ballroom show. AEW books one right near them, right? GCW is involved a little bit with the WWE ID program there, as we're starting to see. And Ricky Starks showed up there at the mall in New Jersey or whatever, and he cut this ferocious promo. He then was on Chris Van Vliet podcast, and he buried AEW basically, or just he didn't even bury them. He's just truthful about what's going on with them and what's happened to him so far. And he's like, I'm going to do these indie dates. I'm sure he got the okay from Tony Khan or whoever, just whatever staff in AEW, and he shows up in GCW. He's going to work this program with Cardona. The place explodes. Everyone's talking about it. All of a sudden, an interview, or not even an interview, like a podcast with Effie gets resurfaced of him, like on saying literally that Tony Khan is a Nepo baby, and just saying that Shad Khan pays Tony to keep him away from Effie. Now, obviously, Shad pays Tony, or like all of Tony's money, period, comes from his dad. It doesn't matter. Oh, no, he worked a job. Yeah, his dad got him it, like all of his money comes from his dad, hook or by crook. Which is fine, right? We're not just knocking people for that, but true. At the end of the day, you can't get offended by that if someone calls it out. And also, like the part about like Shad pays Tony to stay away from me, like that part's in jest. Like obviously he doesn't mean literally. He just is saying like, listen, these people, like Shad Khan votes for Trump. You think he's going to let the dildo guy on Dynamite? It's basically what Effie's saying, right? Now, love or hate Effie, I don't know. I shout him out. I commend him, and he also responded. We covered it on the show. But basically, Effie's involved with GCW, like heavily, and that's why it pissed Tony off. So he pulled Ricky Starks off of his GCW match with Cardona, and he pulled Ricky Starks off of the future GCW dates he had planned. Now he can show up at Hog Wrestling or whatever, but just not GCW. Weird. And so Tony not only done with the Ricky Starks thing, he's not only warehousing Ricky Starks, but now he books Cardona, who is the guy that Ricky was supposed to feud with when they have Ricky there. And think about it, Jericho is working with Big Bill, who was Ricky's last tag partner. So like, why wouldn't they just bring Ricky in? So gross, and it just shows you that Tony's a gross pig, and he's like, no, he's done with Ricky. Ricky's shelved until it's WWE time, folks. And if there's injury time, he'll tack it on too. So let's try not to bring it up after today, okay? But so not only does he undercut GCW by doing a show next to them as well at the Hammerstein, like right next to them at Hammerstein, but they're bringing in Cardona for their Hammerstein show for Ring of Honor when Cardona's like the main draw for the GCW Hammerstein show. So he's going there and basically just completely destroy, like with GCW now, pulling a Vince. And all these sickos don't want to call it out. None of these want to call it out. I've been saying it for a long time, Tony McCann, for a long time, bro. And because I saw this coming, and I've also been saying for a long time, AEW's in competition with TNA, GCW, MLW. They're not in competition with WWE. Now, did Cardona get a pop? Sure. Is it going to move extra tickets for there at the Hammerstein? Yes. Here's the thing. What is it going to take away from GCW? What did that do to Ricky? This is such a slap in the face of Ricky, dude. This is Tony being petty con. I'm telling you right now, he's being petty just like Vince would be. And this isn't good for the wrestling business. Don't give a how much you're paying people. Just like I don't care how much Vince was paying Roman Reigns when he was dumping dog food on his head. And you know what I mean? I don't care. That was trash. And this is, will Jericho and Cardona have a good match? Sure. That's something I want to see. It's Ring of Honor. I'm going to tune in. If Cardona wins the title and he's on every episode of Ring of Honor, I'll probably start tuning in at least to his segments again, right? Because I haven't watched Ring of Honor in forever, except for like their PLEs. That being said, shout out Cardona. I'm not hating on him at all, but it is what Tony did, and it's that Cardona agreed to do this. And this is Tony McCann full transformation.
The best guys, Tony Khan.
And I called this, and you couldn't be more petty and And if we don't hold Khan to the same standard we hold McMahon and
Yep.
then I don't know, we're doing a disservice, right? And especially because he wants to talk all this and say he's up there with the Giants. Okay,
Yep.
now you're not standing on the principles and all that BTE and Cody and Tony Khan was talking about at the beginning of this thing. Okay, they're not standing on that business, like on those same principles. It's sad. It's just the truth, and I don't know what to say other than like, I don't know. Tony's just doing all that he said he wasn't going to do, and now I'm cheering for GCW, and I hope they get fully on board with WWE ID. And
absolutely,
yeah, I hope it's just a whole new world.
I mean, you were the first person to say that he wasn't in competition with WWE. It was competition with TNA. I remember that. It's one of the first things you said that made me like a big fan of your show.
So all I'm saying, well, thank you, but all I'm saying is that, listen, we can't hate the wrestlers involved. It ain't their bad. I'm sure Jericho had some little snide to do with this backstage, but this is on Tony. He's doing this out of spite. Yep. This is what happened, guys. Ready? And I'm going to give an X-Files because this is all allegedly, but it's not. I can't confirm this, but Tony Khan saw the Giga Chad Van Vliet thing, saw with Ricky Starks, saw the huge reaction he got, saw the internet go crazy, and then Tony decided to make up a fake excuse about Effie's, and then that's why that got out. And then he just did some petty already. He knew he was going for GCW's throat when he did the Hammerstein thing. Because he's looking at their business and going, holy, these other companies are drawing houses. Like TNA is going to do they're going to do bigger houses, like as far as pay-per-views. And again, I've said it before too. I don't give a if NXT is in like a small studio every week. Like I don't even care about the weekly TV houses. You know, if you're going to be in a big building, fill that up though, right? Like I don't care if AEW filmed out of a studio every week and then draw 25K at the pay-per-view. If we're talking like TNA is doing like 8K at the pay-per-view and AEW's doing 10K, then that's in the realm, bro, or whatever, right? That's in the same realm. And AEW's done like 8K for pay-per-view PLE. So yeah, shout out Cardona, I guess, just to end this. Shout out Cardona, Tony Petty Khan. We'll continue to chronicle it here. He's up with Ray Phoenix. We're about to talk about that in a moment. And he's entering his Tony McCon phase. He's realizing like, I got to people over. I got to look out for me, number one. I got to just scoop talent just to have them so no one else can. And he's doing all this old school Vince too. You think he would have learned and not made these same mistakes that other people have made in the past. But if you say, AEW's good for the AEW's good for the wrestling business though. Not when they're doing like this. I disagree. I think this is kind of like weird. And however, it will breed better competition and it stirs up the drama. And maybe that is good for wrestling, like getting the eyeballs and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't, other than the big bag Tony pulled out to give to Cardona, I don't know what else this does for him. To go wrestle Jericho. Oh, he's wrestling Jericho in Ring of Honor for the ROH world title. Yeah, it's valueless at this point. Like Jericho can't even get 500,000 viewers. You know what I mean? Jericho's on shows that are doing like 400K and no one's watching Ring of Honor. Like literally no one knows it exists even. So I don't know what it honestly really does for Cardona, just being honest.
Collects a paycheck.
Yeah. So I said like, this is pretty sad. Tony Khan fucks over GCW by pulling Starks off their show's program with Cardona because of Effie's comments and runs Hammerstein next to them. Effie then replaces Starks against Cardona and GCW and destroys TK again. TK then books Cardona for his Hammerstein show to face Jericho while still refusing to book Starks, whose storyline-wise actually makes sense as the opponent with the Big Bill connection, and Cardona's just okay with GCW over and watering their own Hammerstein show down even worse. I had to cook there, but it just is what it is, man. Tony Khan responds to Eric Bischoff's criticisms, to which we read many of them leading up to this. So Bischoff has been increasingly critical of AEW in recent years. Earlier this week, he sparked some controversy when he said there was no hope for the company. Speaking on the KNC Masterpiece, Tony Khan was asked about Eric Bischoff's comments and why there was seemingly an antagonistic relationship between the two, and the place is erupting for Trick. Whoa, he goes, I have no idea. I really don't care what he says. We've done really, really well, and we've got a great thing going with AEW. We've got something really to be proud of. We not only are going to be here for years to come, going to shows on TBS and TNT, we're going to set the record for the longest run of pro wrestling ever on TNT. Like, see, they just want to beat Bischoff. They don't even care about, like, that's how down bad Tony Khan is. He's not even focused on WWE, and that's why he's trapped in the past. He's like doing what WWE would have tried to do to try to beat Bischoff back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, that's why he's so trapped in the past. He's just trying to beat WCW. That's a dead company. You know, it's so humiliating. But anyways, moving along. He goes, that's only 5 years old. We've accomplished so much. We're just going into this new media rights deal that is historic, and it hasn't even kicked in yet. AEW is doing fantastic. Khan went on to highlight AEW's media rights deal, etc. He goes, we're going to have AEW every Wednesday night live streaming on Max and every Saturday night on Max. No one's going to watch that. In addition to TNT, Tony Khan said, so it's really important for us because cable is massive. It's massive for sports and wrestling. TBS and TNT, those are staples of cable, as Eric himself knows very well. That's what an exact quote from Meltzer, as Eric himself knows very well. But it's really important for the future to also have a foothold in streaming. And that's what we're going to have now with AEW also on Max, in addition to TBS and TNT. So I think AEW is doing fantastic. It's great. I don't know, Tony, you think is all up. That's the problem. That's what people are trying to make you realize. So, like, I don't know if you're right on that, but we'll see. I'm not saying they can't ever bounce back. Like, you know, I say it all the time. Before Bischoff got a hold of, before Bischoff got a hold of WCW, like, it was all up. So it's not like
if Tony could be having the promoter and not the booker, they actually have a chance.
You know, they could rise from the ashes like a phoenix one day. Like, it could happen. You know, it's just a matter of does it. And with Tony, that's what Eric Bischoff meant by no hope as well. He's just like, as long as Tony's in charge, it will never be salvaged. You know, as long as he's in charge, like, they have no hope, and he'll never let go of the charge of the company is what he's trying to get across. And that's what people got to understand is what he's saying. Like, people lack nuance today. I feel like he wants to say this like, you know, Alvarez and Meltzer got so offended. Like, it's clearly not dead. That's clearly stupid. Like, it'll never go away. Tony will pay to keep it alive.
Well, because Eric's thing is, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's one of Eric's biggest phrases. If you're not, and they're not growing, and they haven't grown.
You know, he's just saying, like, it'll never grow. It'll never do anything but stay where it's at or get worse if Tony's in charge. And that's been proven, basically. So moving along, AEW Dynamite at the T-Mobile Center. Why are they running the T-Mobile in Kansas City? This guy breaks it down. They have 3,000 tickets sold, which is fine. Like, okay, good house for AEW, I guess, but that's so low compared to,
right,
you know, like everything else. Why not go to this 8,000 seater that's right by the same place? Tony Khan opened up about dealing with criticism and how it impacts AEW's creative. So Tony Khan says, I think that what we absolutely look to the wrestling fans. Tony, no, you don't. You liar, bro. You do not look to the fans whatsoever.
Liar! Tell us what you know, you goddamn liar!
Can't stand when they talk this shit. And he goes, and we're always looking to find ways to make new fans. I don't feel you are, but doing so in a way that's respectful to wrestling. I don't think hypodermic needles are respectful to wrestling. There was absolutely huge interest in Big Boom AJ has come back to the ring in that match. It helped us introduce new fans to AEW, but we did so with a great wrestling match. All of it was great for the great wrestling fans. There's some people you're never going to be able to convince, and that's okay. So literally, like, there's some people you're never gonna be able to convince that isn't. That's what he's literally saying, folks. Like, it's been so terrible, it's been bad, and what he's saying is you're never going to be able to convince some people what we're doing is actually good. But really, it's the majority. And it's like, what you guys are doing is not good, bro. Don't say we're never. So he's literally saying, no, we're doubling down on this, and we're not even going to try and convince some people. They just don't get it, you know? But I want to try to convince those people and put on good wrestling every week, 52 weeks a year with AEW and TBS and TNT, and make new fans and make believers out of everyone. No, you had all the believers, bro. Now I'm a believer. That's the problem, Tony. You had the believers.
Yeah, he's only here for the sickos now.
Dude, exactly. He just said, I love the sickos.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, bro, you're
fucked.
fucked.
Like, that's all You can't go back. You're not going to get the casuals at this point, especially with how good WWE is. They don't want to watch freaking 3 shows a week.
Didn't he say in there also that he got a bunch of new fans from Big AJ Big Boom guy?
I don't know. He said a bunch. He said he learned marketing from them and all sorts of. Who knows, man?
I mean, I'm sure it got a lot of views from the YouTube for whatever because they've got a big TikTok following, but that doesn't mean that they're going to watch the show weekly.
That's what I was thinking.
Especially with that match, because that was like the only match of the show that didn't go to the outside, that didn't last 25 minutes, that didn't have blood, that didn't have furniture,
and wasn't on the pay-per-view itself.
Right. But which I mean, I get if you're just trying to draw eyes, I can get why you would put it on the pre-show, but that's not going to draw people into what the rest of what you do because it was nothing like the rest of what you do. I mean, that was the most WWE old style match that you'd ever see.
Well, Tony looking to make believers out of everyone, I guess. Some people who are believers are Private Party. AEW Tag Team Champions Private Party say they don't plan on ever leaving AEW. Sorry, this isn't Khan. I was going to do Tony Khan again. One of the biggest things I like to hang on my shoulders that we're AEW originals. We've been here from the very beginning, and I don't plan on ever leaving AEW and Tony Khan. It literally changed my life, and I'm super grateful. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, everybody's allowed to do whatever they want to do, but I don't know. I don't believe that. I could see them shift, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe Tony just pays them handsomely, but again, like the tag belts have just been devalued so much, and Private Party winning them, I think, should have happened years ago if it was going to happen for the first time. Like now it's like, oh, they just won them. Whoop-de-doo. Like everyone's given up on this already. So
right. And they're the exact same they were 5 years ago when they beat the Bucks and they made them or whatever it was.
This guy, Pro Wrestling Counselor, goes, "You are a huge piece of Tony Khan." And so the mole responds to the Cardona thing, and he quote tweets himself. So before this happened, Mole called it. He's like, "If the rumor I heard is true, it's going to upset a lot of people, but I can't get confirmation. Think of recent headlines and cancellations, and then imagine if one participant of the canceled match came to Ring of Honor instead of whatever." And then, the Mole goes, "This is the thing I was talking about. I'm sure they're just dicking Ricky around intentionally, giving the other guy who doesn't work for you a championship match as an apology." So like this is a way to apologize sort of to GCW, I think is what he's insinuating here as well.
And Cardona.
I don't know. That's not really an apology, bro. That's like a backhanded apology to everyone here, in my opinion. But yeah, someone has been pitching. We're going to circle back to Ray Phoenix. Mole also says someone has been pitching this experiment forever, but finally been tasked with choosing one college athlete who, for whatever reason, is free or out of options, and training them from the ground up to see if it's possible to create an unknown in AEW separate from the indies. So Tony Khan doing his own NIL program. It'll be great, the first of its kind. Meltzer will be like, "Well, no one's ever did anything like this before. It's the first time it's ever happened."
The best guy's Tony Khan.
I can't wait for that, and let's see if it's a big fail or not. Not saying I hope the kid fails or anything that they choose, but hopefully it works. But like, no, who are you going to get to train him? Like Dustin Rhodes, I guess.
QT,
yeah. They all work for WWE next year, bud. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for AEW Hot News.